Today's video, part 1 on building bamboo arrows, and we're going to be covering in detail throughout this series the whole build from the nocks, different methods, tips and tricks, things I've encountered over the years of selling bamboo shafts, common questions I get by the customers. This part 1 is going to be just choosing the right arrow, and it's going to cover pretty much two things: what the purpose is of the arrow you're buying, or the set of arrows you're buying, and how to choose the right spine weight for your bow. Now this is going to be a simplified version because you could deep dive into a lot of this stuff. But the basics, we'll start on your arrow weight. And bamboo, a lot of people think of it as a light shaft, which it can be. It varies a lot. You can get, in any spine range, very light arrows or very heavy arrows. So when I'm selling these and I'm matching all my dozens, getting everything set up, they're going to be listed and they're sold by the weight and the spine, so you know what you're getting. Because, not now. We're filming, bud. But the arrow weight, the bamboo really shines through that. Even, I bet cane does too. I've never worked with cane. We don't have it up here in Maine. But if you're looking for a target arrow, a lighter arrow is going to be better. It's going to fly straighter. And if you're looking for small game, stump shooting, bamboo is tough. I mean, it is very hard to break. You can hit rocks, and I've seen some of these just completely hit, deflect sideways, hit rocks, bury in the ground, and I never worry about them because they rarely will actually snap on you. So these, in a lightweight shaft, if you buy a lighter dozen, they make a great, great arrow for that. So if you're target shooting, anything like that, flight shooting in the air, nice lighter arrow, usually the way to go in my opinion. And for a heavier shaft, if you're looking for a hunting arrow, then I would try to follow at least 10 grains per inch. A little bit lighter sometimes is okay. You can always have a longer arrow as long as you adjust your spine weight for that, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And you can get some of these. Don't see one there, but some of these shafts, for example, if you had a lighter bow, you're shooting 40, 45 pounds. If you were to buy an arrow or make an arrow that's going to be set up about an inch past for 28 inches, we'll say, you could always go out that extra few inches on your arrow, bump up your spine weight to, we go 3 inches further, which we'll cover this in a few more minutes, you might be shooting a 55, 60 grain arrow. And in that weight in bamboo, you can get some good 400, 500 grain shafts. So even with a lighter weight bow, longer arrow in bamboo, you end up getting an arrow that's significantly good hunting weight. So that's just the basics of it. There's far more you can go into. And this is also going to be about the spine, which I'm going to assume people watching this, some people, this is their first time hearing about it. They're just getting into archery. They've been shooting carbon arrows maybe. So we're going to go straight through the basics. And what is spine? Arrow spine is the stiffness of that certain shaft. And it's important because this arrow has to bend around the bow and clear the bow without catching the tail and flipping it sideways or bouncing off the side or it makes your arrow flight better having the proper spine. Your arrow should never be flying this way and then correcting. They should only have a very short correction and then be flying true. And spine is all based off 28 inches in wood arrows, 28 inches of arrow length. So from the base of your point, if you had a point on here and you measured 28 inches from there, and that was your length of your arrow, that's going to be what your spine is based off of. It all is 28 inches when you're reading those spines. So if you look at a dozen, it's 40 to 45 pound spine. Ishy. If it's 40 to 45 pound spine, then that means that arrow is for 28 inches. If you bought a 32-inch arrow for 40, 45 pound, that's going to be significantly weaker in actual dynamic spine because there's two different spines. Dynamic spine is how this is affected by other factors. Static spine is just this being measured, sorted, and put into dozens. A standard for it, if you will. So when you're choosing these arrows and you want a dozen that's right for your bow, keep in mind the very first thing is what poundage is your bow. And then you're going to be looking at your arrow shafts, choosing, okay, my bow, let's say again, 40-pound bow. 45 pounds would be where you're looking to start. But what is your arrow length? Again, from where your point is, if you have a point glued on here, from the base of that back, how far is your total arrow? And with spine, where it's 28 inches, every inch longer, you have to add 5 pounds spine weight to the dozen that you're going to be making arrows from. So if you had, let's say, a 30-inch arrow for a 40-pound bow, the basics, that's 2 inches longer than 28 inches. So you're going to be looking at a 50, 55-pound spine. If you're going shorter, let's say you're shooting 27 inches total arrow, 1 inch less for a 40-pound bow. Now you're going to be looking at the starting point of 5 pounds less, 35, 40 pounds. Sorry, it took me a minute to think. So that is just one factor, though. Your bow makes a big difference, too. If you have a very center shot bow, like a modern recurve fiberglass, you can drastically increase your spine because it doesn't have to clear that riser. If it's just dead center and that thing has no bend to go around, you can shoot a very stiff arrow. And some bows, just like guns with ammo, some bows like certain things better. So if you have a larger riser where that arrow has to clear a lot going around, and if you're shooting a 40-pound bow, you might have to drop that spine down 5 or 10 pounds just to get that. Or you might have to increase your arrow length if you don't want to lose the weight of the arrow. Increase it a little bit further than you normally do to get that extra spine. So you have options. And once you figure that out, I mean, you can also, a spine test kit will help some people. And if you don't know what that is, it's where you have 3 or 4 very closely matched arrows in a dozen, and you have a variety of spine ranges. So you might get 40-45, 45-50, 50-55, and you can test and see which one shoots best for your bow. The other important factor in choosing your shafts is going to be your tip weight. And all of these arrows, when they're spined, the dozens you buy, they are going to be based on a 125 grain point. They assume 125 grains is going on the tip of that arrow. And that affects your spine that you need because consider it resistance. If you have a heavier point on here, when this arrow is shot, all that force forward has more resistance to it, causing more of a bend in that shaft. So the rules for that, every 25 grains more on your point weight, you want to have a general rule of 5 pounds heavier on your shaft spine. And every 25 grains less, you want to have 5 pounds less. So if you have a 150 grain point and you're, let's just say, normally 40-pound shafts, 150 grain point, you're going to add 5 pounds. Now it's 45 pound would be your general starting point. 100 grains, you're going to go less. So you might want a 35 pound for a 40-pound bow. So the general rules to keep in mind, 28 inches, 125 grains. So if you have inch more, inch less on your shaft length, again measured from the base of your point, you're going to add or minus 5 pounds. Longer, add 5 pounds, less, minus 5 pounds. On the tips, 25 grains from 125. So if you're shooting a 175 grain tip, that's 10 pounds extra you want on that spine weight. If you need any help, feel free to message me. I'm on Facebook. I'm very responsive to the messages and questions that people have. I've been selling these for years, and this video I want to cover a lot of the questions, the topics, especially the points. That's a big one because people have a lot of trouble figuring out how to fit the points best on here because they do vary in diameter, but they make great shafts. I'm going to have my website up soon. I'm kind of redoing it right now. I'm getting a bunch of these stocked up and matched, and hope you guys will stay tuned. I'm putting a new video out every week, and this is part 1. Part 2, we're going to be covering the knocks of these, and we might include the points too, depending on the length of the video, but it's going to be a detailed series on how to make a very good, very simple effective arrow. So stay tuned, guys.